Have you ever looked at those mighty engines on the wing of an airplane and wondered, how do these big, noisy machines actually work? Let's dive into what happens inside a jet engine. Imagine you're holding a bottle rocket. When you light it, the fuel burns, creating hot gases that rush out one end. This forward push is what sends your rocket skyward. In a jet engine, it works in much the same way. First, air enters through the intake at the front of the engine. This air is moving fast and under pressure because of the plane's speed. Now, think of this as the equivalent of you holding that bottle rocket upright before lighting it. The high-pressure air is ready to be used. Inside the engine, there's a powerful fan that spins really fast. Imagine the propeller of a helicopter, but much larger and faster. This fan pulls in more outside air, mixing it with some of the hot gases coming from the back. It's like adding a lot of fuel to your rocket to make it even stronger. The engine then compresses this mixture using a series of rotating blades called compressors. Think of these as turbochargers on steroids. This compression makes everything incredibly dense and ready for the next step, combustion. Just like lighting that bottle rocket, you ignite the mix. But in a jet engine, there's a continuous burn happening inside a chamber. Here's the surprising part. The heat and pressure from this combustion are so intense that they force hot gases out really fast through the nozzle at the back of the engine. This rapid expulsion of gases is what generates the thrust, forward push, that literally lifts the plane into the air, just like the rocket. And there you have it, the basic process behind how a jet engine works, making those big, noisy machines incredibly effective at keeping planes in flight. Okay, so we got that big turbo fan sucking up air, right? But what happens next is where things get really interesting. Think of it like mixing baking soda and vinegar in a bottle. When you open the top, those two ingredients react, creating pressure, boom. That's kind of what's happening inside a jet engine. First, we need to think about our air, the main player. Imagine you're at the beach on a windy day. The wind is like the air coming into the jet engine. It's flowing in and getting pushed toward the back by those big fan blades. Now, it's powerful, but not yet hot enough for what we need. And then there's the fuel, our second main player. Fuel is brought in from the tanks under the wings or tail of the plane. Just like how you might squeeze a bottle of vinegar into our baking soda and vinegar mix, the fuel is injected into the engine at just the right moment. But instead of creating an immediate reaction like that fizzing mixture, it waits until it gets mixed with the air. All right, so we got our big friend, the turbo compressor, and you might already be thinking, hey, that sounded a lot like those giant fans at the airport I saw. You know, the ones with the spinning blades? Exactly. That's it. The turbo compressor is just like one of those fans, but supercharged for jet engines. Imagine you have a balloon. Now, imagine blowing into that balloon to make it bigger and then letting go so it flies away. But what if we could take that same balloon and squeeze the air out of it as much as possible before letting it go? That's kind of what the turbo compressor does. When the jet engine takes in air from outside, this turbo compressor whirs into action. It spins its blades incredibly fast, more than 10,000 revolutions per minute in some engines, and squishes that air down until it's packed really tightly. Think of it as squeezing a sponge. You're getting all those tiny pockets of air to pack closely together. Why does this matter? Well, imagine trying to fill up a cup with water using a large straw versus a smaller one. The smaller straw lets you get the water much faster because there's less space for the liquid to spread out. It's the same thing with the turbo compressor. It squashes that air down, making it denser and easier to work with. And here's the surprising part. By compressing the air so tightly, we can actually fit more fuel into each breath of air. This is crucial because remember, for an engine to burn fuel, it needs both fuel and oxygen. More air means more oxygen, which means our jet engine can get even more power out of that fuel. So, just like squeezing a balloon or using a smaller straw, the turbo compressor squeezes the air into incredibly tight spaces. This makes the engine's job much easier and allows for more efficient use of fuel. Now that we've turbo-compressed our air to super high pressures and squirted in some carefully measured fuel, we're getting ready for what's called ignition or lighting off. It's like setting off a small firecracker. Imagine you have a match and some gunpowder. When a match lights it up, boom, you get an explosion. In our jet engine, here's how that works. The fuel and air mix together in what we call a combustion chamber. Think of this as a tiny furnace or a mini boiler room where the magic happens. When the conditions are just right, like having the perfect amount of fuel and enough heat, the mixture ignites all at once. Imagine you're blowing up balloons, and instead of breathing out slowly, you give a big puff of air in one go. That's kind of what's happening here. Except instead of making a balloon inflate, we're creating an explosion that pushes the engine forward with its force. This rapid expansion of gases is what gives the jet engine its power. And here's the surprising part. The ignition doesn't happen just once. It happens multiple times every second in a continuous process called combustion. Each tiny mini explosion propels the plane forward, making it glide through the sky with incredible efficiency. So, back to our question, how does a jet engine actually work? Well, after turbo-compressing the air and mixing it with fuel, we've set off a small firecracker. The mixture ignites, creating an explosion that propels the plane forward. Okay, so now we have our little explosion in the combustion chamber. These gases are super hot and under immense pressure. Think of it like blowing up a balloon really fast and then letting go all at once. When you let that balloon go, it pushes outward with incredible force. That's exactly what these gases do inside the engine. But instead of a balloon, imagine they're pushing against spinning turbine blades. These turbine blades are sort of like propellers or even pinwheels. When those gases rush past them, they push back. And just like how you can spin a pinwheel by blowing into it, the turbine starts to spin really fast. Here's the surprising part. This spinning turbine does more than just sit there. It's connected to the compressor, which we learned about earlier. The turbine spins so hard that it actually helps force air back into the compressor, making sure everything keeps moving and cycling over and over again. So, in short, these exploding gases push against the turbine blades, much like letting go of a blown-up balloon. And just like how the pinwheel starts spinning when you blow into it, the turbine spins, driving the compressor to keep the whole engine running smoothly. So, back to our original question. How does this magic of air and fuel create enough power to lift a huge plane? The gases that expand and push the turbine also shoot out the back really fast. It's like pushing yourself in water. If you push harder, you go faster. And that force is what propels the airplane forward and keeps it flying. Imagine you're on a skateboard. When you jump off one end, your weight pushes against the ground, and you fly forward because of that force. Jets do something similar, but with air. The gases expand as they move through the engine and push out the back at high speed. This rapid expansion creates a lot of thrust, basically a strong push. That's what makes the plane go. And here's the surprising part. Even though planes are incredibly heavy, the force from just one jet engine can be enough to lift it. It's like having an invisible hand pushing the plane up and forward with every breath of those gases. All four engines work together to generate such a powerful push that the plane stays in the air effortlessly. Now you know why airplanes can fly. Because the gases pushing out the back create enough force to overcome gravity and keep the plane moving. It's not just about being heavy. It's also about using this incredible force to stay aloft.